Alrighty, guys, it is 3:30 this Thursday, September 25th, and time to wrap it up. And look at that rundown here. That was nothing big spectacular. That's called a V bottom right there. That is one heck of a rundown. So we started off this morning looking for a weakness given the overnight, looking for them to try to take this lower, and so far they did. They started off pretty good on the downside. We took it all the way down here to the 6630s, stalled there, started trading back up, sloppy action going on there. Then we had a little rally midday, early morning, right after the news came out, the 10 o'clock news, and there was like there was housing data. So it ran it up right to the back to the mean, and then it's been a sloppy after that, back and forth, kind of choppy, and then finally now we're getting if we had going into that 2 o'clock hour, this rundown, and that was a one flush and a half. They ran it all the way down here, ran the stops below the obvious, and then complete reversal back to the mean. So. Man, I think this has to do, it probably has to do something with end of the month, end of the quarter kind of rebalancing what's going on here. But it is pretty volatile. So, and I did take one trade on the ES, and that was after they backed off this high. A beautiful setup. It bounced off the volume weighted mean. Not looking for a big trade here, but they stalled, nice little balance bar forming, and then they started trading higher. I figured it's too good to not take that trade. So I took it. A pretty tight stop on that one, and then basically got a nice $20 trade out of that thing. Haven't done anything else on the ES for today, but I would start off range bound right now. But it looks to me like support held pretty good. Unless we get a rundown here going into the close, I'm probably going to be looking for attempts to take this higher. And if we can trade up above that 6670s, I think we are in pretty darn good shape to potentially get back in shape here, maybe get up here into this upper range. But we are still technically we are still in stage two, even in the bigger picture. You're looking at this thing heading lower. We just extended quite a bit lower. So from the high to the low right now, in 3 days, we have been basically going from 67.50 down to that 66.20. So over 100 points down there. And so we'll see if this turns into a move out of the middle to the downside, or if this is going to be it. Right now, we're kind of back to that 66.70. That's a little bit below it. So I'm thinking we have a shot here at staying at that 66.70 level and start building value. But I'm going to have to see how it develops going into tomorrow. Excuse me, tomorrow. So starting off range bound, looking for early strength to see if we can take this higher. If this starts trading below that 66.50s, I would be on the short side. So if they end up closing below 66.50, starting off on the short side, right now range bound. And if they close above 66.70, we are staying range bound. I'm not going to hop on the long side by any means. All right, so that's the ES going into tomorrow's trading. Now, tomorrow, Friday, we have the personal income number coming out at 8:30, and and then consumer sentiment at 10. So that personal income number, that where you have an inflation read, and that's going to potentially could move the market pretty well. So pretty good. So we'll see how that shakes out. But right now, that's what you got going into tomorrow. So starting off range bound, unless they close below 66.50s, then we start from the short side. Now looking at the Nasdaq and the bond market, no trades on the bond market today. They were down here. They were taking this lower. Now they're kind of back up again, about on 16. So okay, fine. Still going to key in on that 116 level. So this probe to the downside, it got me a little bit worried. We'll see if they can hold 16. If not, we may be on our way down to that 114 level. Have not taken it. I would just start off range bound. This could be a retest failure, which is going to hold, but it kind of overshot it a little bit more. They took it lower, so this retest failure is not any longer a retest. This is actually an extension to the downside. So I would look for short setups against that 12 to 14, against that 16 for rotations down, and then we'll see if they can trade up above the 16s. I'll start shifting my bias or opinion, but at this point I'm thinking short side of the market still. On the Nasdaq, I had a couple of trades on the Nasdaq. One was early before the open, when this whole weakness was going on, got shaken out of that trade. I took one trade on the band, the pullback here to the the initial balance high, when it backed off this high, and it was a small trade. It went to break even and then shook me out. So that was in that sloppy area. So two trades, $10 on that one. So overall up 30 some bucks on both the ES and Nasdaq. But also again, Nasdaq, look at that move to the downside. That was one heck of a move. Didn't quite make it down to the low, but man, that was pretty gnarly stuff. So, and now we're right back up here against that 24 620s. Unless they get up above the 670s and the 700s here, I'm not going to be range bound. I'm going to start from the short side on this guy. The Nasdaq feels a lot weaker than the ES does. So we'll see if they can just manage to scratch up above that 670 or maybe the 700s into the close. I doubt it. So starting off range bound with a bias to the downside on the Nasdaq, looking to sell early strength. If they close below that 550, just stay on the short side at that point a little bit more aggressively. So that's the Nasdaq. Excuse me. And then finally, oil and gold. The gold and back up a little bit, but it's not so. They set range bound, and it looked like they're trying to take it a bit higher. They're up to 37.80s again. They're pretty much just back to value on gold, but they're definitely not pulling back anymore. So I would stay range bound right now going into the overnight. Still looking to sell against that the 90s, 38.05 and 38.10s. That's not super aggressively. I would favor the long side, so would look to buy against that 37.80s, that these two double prints. Maybe down here at the mode at the 37.70s, 37.60s, and then down to 37.50s. If they take out the 37.50s, we are on the short side of this. But at this point, it doesn't feel like they're going to try to take this lower. So I think we have got a little bit of weakness here yesterday, and now we're kind of right back to where we were. On oil, all right, they're up here. They finally took out the retest failure. They took that out and traded a little bit above it. So hard to say where they're going to go from here, but it looks like they ran the stops above the obvious. Let's see if they can hold this level. If not, if they get back below 65s, they're going to be back range bound. Looking for early strength though, see if they can take this higher or not. But if they can't hold this 65 level above it, then chances are we're going to see a rotation down here. So we're watching for that. Watch that single print at 65.04 here. If that comes out, we may be on our way lower again. So that's oil. I haven't traded oil or gold. Today I did the ES and the Nasdaq. And there were plenty of action on the ES and the Nasdaq today. So back to the ES, and as I said, this is like a crazy V bottom right there. How do you trade this? You don't. I mean, it's trying to chase it on the way down, and then try to chase it on the way up. The thing is like on the way down here, people buying it are getting crushed, run over, and then on the way down, people hopping on the short side on the wave on the pullback are also getting crushed. That is what this is all about. That's why it looks so crazy. All right, man, we'll leave it there. So I have one trade on the ES for 21 bucks, about two trades on the Nasdaq for 10. So not a huge show. It could have been a lot bigger today, but as I said, you had to be able to get in with good trade location. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. I'll see you back at bright and early tomorrow morning. Let's see how that PCE number comes out and what's going to happen. All right, guys, later.